Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, as always, joined as always by Denny Carter. Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Again, we are not legally allowed to tell you. I'm wearing my Team USA quote unquote kit, what they're called by the Europeans.
And I heard producer Adam say kit. I had no idea what we were talking about.
Yeah, soccer, also known as football, can do nothing normally. Your uniform is your kit. Your shoes are your boots. The field, of course, is a pitch.
Really? Boots?
Mm-hmm, boots. They have to be just vastly superior to us and everything.
So everyone wants to just sound like they're on Peaky Blinders.
They do. Well, then most of these people are, to be fair. Most English soccer fans. Every Peaky Blinders episode is based on something an English soccer fan has done. No offense to the English soccer fans. But we want to talk about American football fans, Denny, because I feel like we had a very memeable Week 12 between Brian Robinson wearing the most giant hat I've ever seen and the Jaguars mascot, let's just be real, logging all the way on. And for you to not see the Jaguars mascot, who's like a big cat, was parading around the stadium in a American flag Speedo.
Yeah.
As the Jaguars pulled the upset over the Baltimore Ravens, so it worked.
I should clarify. Pat doesn't have it all the way correct there. The Jaguar was wearing an American flag thong Speedo.
was it really? I guess that it was actually.
It was in fact. I confirmed with sources that it was a thong.
And at one point he was. I mean, we're not allowed to say this word on air, so you'll probably hear this bleeped on the podcast. I believe he was thrusting a few times. Johnny Jaguar, whatever his name is.
Oh, man.
What was your favorite meme? Jackson DeVille, apparently, is the name of the thrusting Jaguar. Jackson DeVille thrusting or Brian Robinson wearing a hat far, far too large for his head? What was your favorite meme from Week 12?
While I can't stop thinking of the size of the hat and wondering if Brian Robinson is trying to make the big hat a thing.
I think he is. It takes a pioneer.
Looks truly terrible.
I hate to be judgmental, but Brian, it does look bad.
It looks, I mean, I can't even wrap my head around someone wearing it and saying, this is my fashion statement.
Well, if you're an NFL running back, by definition, you are a very large human, and it made him look very small. It made him look like a JV football player.
He looks like, for some reason, I kept coming back to this. Brian Robinson looked like a Mario character.
He does. He does.
Like Toad, I guess. He looked like Toad.
Well, it just highlights how Mario has never worn a hat that actually fits his head.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's why. Yeah, he wears the plumber's hat. Or what we think of the plumber. I don't know.
I've never had a plumber come to my house not wearing that of you. If they're not wearing that, it means they're not a real plumber. It means you didn't get a good union plumber, and they're actually not allowed to touch your sink. But we could report you for that, actually.
So, yeah. But I have to say that the thing that will stick with me is the Jaguar dressed in a Speedo thong. And
you don't unsee Jackson DeVille.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the game with my dad briefly, and my dad goes,
"He's never watching the NFL again."
What is that thing under the goalposts? And I said, I think that's the Jaguar. He was like, "That's not a Jaguar." I was like, I don't know like what a Jaguar is supposed to look like, but
what? So you've seen a bunch of Jaguars out in the wild wearing clothes?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be one, you know. And he was like, "But what is it wearing?" I said, "Obviously, Dad, it's wearing a Speedo. What else would a Jaguar be wearing?"
What else would it? But I would say we're lucky he was wearing even that. I've never seen a Jaguar wear clothes in the public, and frankly, I think it's inappropriate when Jackson DeVille wears the Jaguars jersey.
Right. No, well, I would say it's not anatomically correct. Probably, you know. I think we need to we need to be accurate. You know, if we're gonna have animals representing NFL teams, we need to have them an accurate depiction. You know, and so if that requires a naked mascot wearing very small underwear, thrusting, then that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
I don't.
whatever it takes when you're rebuilding a culture like the Jaguars are.
Well, and also the fact that they won, you know what this means, Pat? This means that they have to keep doing this. They have to keep.
I mean, clearly they do have to keep doing it. Once you have a mascot go viral, because it's very stiff competition to have a mascot go viral in 2022. Like Gritty kind of upped the game. I mean, Jacksonville is all anyone can talk about, including your father. And it would be a humongous mistake to put regular clothes back on Jacksonville.
Look at his I don't know, its appearance coincided with what could be described as Trevor Lawrence's breakout game.
No, it's true. And I'm actually very superstitious, so it would be a horrific mistake for Jacksonville.
I'm only a little stitious, and I can tell you that this needs to keep going.
And he needs to review the film, the exact number of thrusts after each score, and go back to that. And I'll say the one thing sticking with me from the memes over the weekend is that I can't imagine Brian Robinson's friend got his gigantic hat officially licensed by the NFL. And Daniel Snyder is just, like kind of the meme where like people are like licking their chops, like rubbing their hands.
Yeah.
Like they can't wait to get Daniel Snyder cannot wait to sue the maker of this large hat for making unlicensed Commanders memorabilia merchandise. He will sue Brian Robinson's friend.
It's happening. And by the way, I believe, look, the Jaguars have long been an analytics-driven organization. I think that's where this comes from. I think the number of thrusts that the Jaguar did during the game was analytics. That's football analytics. So if you disagree with that, then you hate analytics. That's all.
You hate analytics. You're a dinosaur. Everything is wrong with the NFL. Everything is right with the NFL, Denny. Is Jordan Love immediately throwing a touchdown to Christian Watson? Coming in the game, is literally immediately throwing to Christian Watson. Aaron Rodgers, who the NBC cameras were finding, he was basically staring at his thumb after every throw, really laying it on thick. Like anytime he had an incompletion,
I know.
Man.
Oh, this thing's not working.
Yeah, and then he did take a rather sizable hit to his midsection, where it seemed like he was not hamming it up for the cameras and having to get on a knee and catch his breath after every time he moved.
Yeah.
And so he did depart the game. We have no idea what his week 13 status is. He very well could play. Aaron Rodgers is a very prideful man. He was still slinging it, even when he couldn't breathe, I will say, last night. But we'll say he's highly questionable for week 13 against the Bears defense, the Bears pass defense, only the Raiders have a worse EPA per drop back against the pass.
And just barely.
Yeah, just barely.
The Bears are real bad, and they were missing starters yesterday against the Jets. They're terrible.
So the risk of dating this conversation immediately if Aaron Rodgers I'm playing, is Jordan Love the streamer of the week for week 13 against the Chicago Bears?
I think he's a good pickup unless you have an elite quarterback, unless you have one of the top 7-8 guys. If you've been just scraping bottom, I can convince myself that Jacoby Brissett can get me there this week. If you're in that position, you could do way worse than to just pick up Jordan Love, who's available in, let me check my notes. Yes, 100% of league.
100%, I believe.
So I don't want to hear anything about your league. Okay. I know, obviously, Superflex League, he was drafted before Aaron Rodgers. I get it. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, he was really good. I don't watch games, as you know. I've never watched it.
Except for, it sounds like you were watching the Jaguar, thoh.
But I didn't. I made sure not to watch the game. I was watching the Jaguar.
Only the Jaguar. Okay.
I was watching the Eagles Packers game, and man, the Jordan Love dot on my screen was moving and throwing really well. So anyway, just to give you an idea of how much better he was than last year, he had 63. Jordan Love had 63 attempts last year. He had a 5.1 adjusted yards per attempt, which is just atrocious. Last night against the Eagles, I should say Sunday night, because we don't know if this is Tuesday or Monday. Sunday night against the Eagles, his adjusted yards per attempt was 11.4. He, of course, completed the long touchdown to Christian Watson, completed 6 of his 9 throws for 113 yards. And honestly, it could have been better. Should have been better. Aaron Jones dropped a 25-yard reception. There was another one that could have been, should have been, would have been.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah. So he actually played better than his numbers, and his numbers were really good. It made me go back actually in the Rotoworld blurbs to reports in July and August saying Jordan Love is an entirely different guy this year, and that he's grown as a quarterback, as a person. And of course, this sounded, like a smokescreen, so that the Packers could deal him away finally to some quarterback desperate team. But it made me think that those reports were actually real.
So we will say the game wasn't like over. It would be like a stretch to say this was garbage time when Jordan Love was in the game, but the game was under control for the Eagles. So the Eagles weren't like pinning their ears back and it's like getting after Jordan Love. It was kind of some soft coverages. But I mean, the game was within doubt. They had it under control, but it wasn't like a laugher. So you can't just totally write off what Jordan Love did. Yeah, where it was only one quarter of play. It was by far the best quarter of his very brief NFL career. And it at least offered hope that in a good situation like the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears who just single-handedly revived Trevor Lawrence's career, we may talk about that later.
Yeah,
Jordan Love can be streamed against them in Week 13. He will be. I will say I think he will be a priority streamer. By the way, the Packers, 363 rushing yards they allowed to the Eagles. Seems suboptimal.
That's excessive. I mean, ideally as an NFL defense, you want to hold the opponent to under 300 yards.
Yeah, you do typically want to hold them down under. That is analytics for sure. Yeah, that's analytics. Even like old, like Mike McCarthy, like when he had his PFF subscription, that was the first thing. Jerry, chip under 300. I can't do a Mike McCarthy voice at all. Actually,
Jerry, one thing we have to do is we have to hold the opponent to less than 300. 295, 298. That's fine.
That is fine, actually.
But you get to 305, 310. Too much. It's too much.
Too much. What also too much, Denny, the New York Jets. There's a lot going on here. We'll begin with the backfield, though, where someone named Zonovan Knight. I think maybe I'd seen the name because I had to like mark him in our CMS a few times. It's kind of a memorable name.
Did you really? I see. I like to think that I know all the players because of what we do on a daily basis. I mean, we work with these players' names all the time in the back end of the site. Never heard of this guy.
No, I mean, so I don't want to overstate. I had not heard of him. I had literally seen his name.
Okay.
Like I had seen the name as an abstraction. Like Sunday morning, if you had been like Zonovan Knight, what team does he play for? The Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm not sure. Like I've seen the name. I could accurately say I've seen the name. Had no idea he was on the New York Jets. He led the Jets backfield after it was a busy day in the Jets backfield. James Robinson was a healthy scratch, which gave Michael Carter some runway to maybe run that starter's job. We actually had a debate in like our Slack chat going, I was like, I don't know. I just don't think that they think he's good or he might not be good. And then he had 6 carries for 21 yards. He goes out with supposedly a low-grade ankle sprain. And then Zonovan Knight, as he's known, 103 yards from scrimmage, 69 yards rushing. That's a total Michael Carter's better at only one time all season. And Ty Johnson also has a big day. I mean, what in the world do we tell the folks about the Jets backfield?
Well, you're going to want whoever is getting the majority of the early down carries in this offense because the Jets have been run heavy since Joe Flacco was benched, or since he ceded the job to Zach Wilson. Their pass rate over expected is -3%, which is 19th in the league. So they are definitely run first. Robert Saleh seemed to have a lot of positive things to say about Knight, so I guess we're going with him. I mean, he's worth an ad if Michael Carter's ankle issue keeps him out a week or two.
So he's worth an ad even if it doesn't.
Yeah, no, he is either way. But I mean, like he's like a priority ad.
Yeah.
If we hear that Carter is not practicing or that the team says we're not sure about this week, I think he becomes very like a very solid touch-based RB 2-3-ish type option.
Because I think it was the best rushing performance by a Jets running back all year who not named Breece Hall probably. And this was against a very bad defense, a very bad Bears defense in a game the Jets totally controlled. So you don't want to go overboard, but we're not inferring too much to say the Jets were not happy with James Robinson, who they healthy scratched. They have not really been happy with Michael Carter all season. I mean,
no.
Maybe they think he's a good player, but they just cannot find a role that they're satisfied with for him. And it's clearly not enamored with him being the 1A back in their committee. And maybe by default, he will remain the 1A back just because he has the most versatile all-around skill set. He has the most experience of the non-James Robinson backs. But, yeah, I mean, this is a situation where I would feel very comfortable like kind of leaning into the uncertainty and feeling very good about taking a Zonovan night flyer. Maybe it doesn't go anywhere. But I would feel very, very good. It's kind of like the classic vacuum situation where we don't really know what's going on with the Jets backfield. He's extremely cheap. People still aren't going to be like breaking the bank with their fab budgets for Zonovan night. I would take a flyer. I would also take a flyer on Ty Johnson, who basically is kind of like a J.D. McKissick anytime he gets an opportunity. He catches like 5 passes, like anytime he's involved in the game plan. So, yeah, I would happily take a flyer on both Jets running backs.
Yeah, Ty Johnson is somewhat interesting. Yeah, because like you said, he's going to get most of that pass catching work, and that definitely dings Zonovan Knight's upside.
Who we've heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually looking for the Jets route running data from yesterday. So yeah, we have Michael Carter ran only 10 routes before he left the game, and then Ty Johnson led the backfield with routes after that. Although Zonovan Knight did see 3 targets to 2 targets for Ty Johnson, so maybe I'm overstating that a little bit. But yeah, I think both Jets running backs should be claimed this week.
And like, it seems like if Michael Carter misses the game, like we're pretty sure, I guess James Robinson will be active. But if they had Zonovan Knight and Ty Johnson up over James Robinson on Sunday, I don't think like James Robinson's going to miraculously claim number 1 duties again.
That's right. Yeah, I wanted to mention, like, when a team makes this kind of move, which was somewhat shocking. Like, you know,
it was. He hasn't been good, but it was very surprising.
Yeah, and so we were all taken. We were all caught off guard by that. We have to pay attention to that, and so I don't think that there's any real reason to say, yeah, you know what, they're going to go back to James Robinson like that. That's a pretty dramatic thing to healthy scratch a guy and give significant snaps and touches to a guy no one's heard of.
Yeah, and they asked Robert Saleh afterwards why he was healthy scratched, and he said running style. I believe.
Yes.
So not very happy with James. You know, they could have maybe researched this a little more, or they made a trade. And last I checked, there were some good running backs like Kareem Hunt available. So we digress. We might as well just stick with the Jets, Denny. Where Mike White, one of the stories of Week 13, instantly makes Zach Wilson, speaking of plumbers, look like a plumber. I mean, that's not supposed to be offensive. This is true. Made him look like a plumber trying to play quarterback. Mike White took advantage and more of. Again, it's one of the best matchups you're ever going to get in the Chicago. But the Minnesota Vikings are a really, really, really good quarterback matchup too. I believe they allow the 3rd most passing yards in the league. They allowed, I think, the 6th most quarterback fantasy points. So Mike White, we know it's like nowhere close to case closed with Mike White, like if he's a good NFL quarterback. But he took advantage of a good matchup. He has another really, really good matchup for Week 13. What are we thinking about Mike White as a streamer or maybe an ad on waivers?
I mean, Mike White was really efficient and accurate, and I know the matchup. I understand. Like, the Bears are bad when they're at full health, and yesterday they were missing two key defenders in the secondary, their safety and their cornerback. So really down bad. I get that, but Mike White was 5th among all quarterbacks in Week 12 in completion rate over expected. Zach Wilson, no matter who they played, was continually in the bottom 2 or 3 every single week in that category. I think Mike White, importantly, just for fantasy purposes, he unlocks Garrett Wilson. Because my theory is, Pat, literally anyone unlocks Garrett Wilson except for Zach Wilson. Okay, like if Nathan Peterman were on the Jets, he would unlock Garrett Wilson. Okay, I'm just saying.
We've already had used the word thrust a bunch this show. We have to start saying stuff about Nathan Peterman.
I would like to see it. I would like to see, is Peterman worse than Zach Wilson? I don't know. So as long as Mike White has this job, Garrett Wilson is a wide receiver 2, based on volume, based on routes, based on efficiency with his targets. And yeah, by the way, the Vikings are a pass funnel. I don't think it's going to come as easy every week for Mike White, but he's certainly a streamer.
And So he popped in the boomer stats. He popped in the non-boomer stats. So Mike White in 4 career starts has twice posted a QB rating above 100. Zach Wilson has done that one time ever in 20 NFL starts. Mike White posted a better EPA per drop back yesterday than Zach Wilson ever has on a start.
Wow.
He's just kind of one of these ridiculous stats, but from ESPN's Rich Cimini, Mike White became the first quarterback in NFL history to have multiple games with at least a 75 completion percentage, 300 pass yards, and 3 touchdowns within his first 4 starts. So the guy can play a little ball, and the Minnesota Vikings let you play a little ball if you're a quarterback. So
really like not an intimidating defense at all from a passing game standpoint.
Would you rather, off the top of your head, stream Jordan Love against the Bears or Mike White against the Vikings?
Yeah, I actually think as fantasy players, if we are streaming quarterback, we have to target the Bears. Yeah, so really I would go with Love.
You'd go with Love. Sean McVay is not going with Love. He's going with pain and suffering as he just makes up the Rams' rotations as he goes. This includes both in the backfield and the receiver core. We'll start in the backfield, Denny, where it basically seems he's drawing touches out of a hat. Kyron Williams out-touched Cam Akers 14-8 in Kansas City. I mean, speaking of vacuums, there's a major information vacuum here. We just don't really know what's happening on a week-to-week basis in the Rams backfield. What do you think is happening heading into Week 13?
We don't know a lot about the Rams, and I would love if some Rams reporters could, mix it up and get some information out of the
quote
coach.
Actually get some information.
Because we go in not knowing. We didn't know who was going to start at quarterback, and I don't mean like until a few minutes before kickoff. I mean period for the Rams. We didn't know that Bryce Perkins was going to start until the Rams trotted him out. And trust me, I was tracked it for 2.5 hours, Pat. I was tilting my face.
You were tilting. You were on the case.
So how does this happen? No reporter, no beat writer is like, hey, by the way, Bryce Perkins is start. They don't. No one knows anything about the Rams, and including their backfield. Kyron Williams, I guess, would be the better option here because he ran almost all the routes. Saw 3 targets, whatever. Like this backfield is just hideous. Just really, really horrible. I guess Kyron Williams has. I guess his best path, his most positive outcome would be that the Rams concede this is a lost season and they phase out Akers and they really give Kyron Williams like a good look to see if he can be the guy in the backfield. But I don't know if that's likely.
Yeah, I don't know either. And we don't know anything about the whole offensive setup now. We don't know when Matthew Stafford's going to come back from his concussion. We guess Bryce Perkins is going to remain the starter. Well, Matthew Stafford's out. You said you wanted to mention Van Jefferson. So let's mention him. Let's mention Van Jefferson in the Rams receiver core and their passing game, Denny.
You seem too excited about Van Jefferson.
I know.
I'm going to have to ask you to calm down. Maybe mute your mic.
Because one thing too, because Allen Robinson done for the year with a foot.
He's done for the year. Yeah. So this time it counts with Van Jefferson, by the way. He is available in a lot of leagues, like 98%.
Not in my league.
He's your wide receiver 1.
He is actually, and I won this week.
Sorry, nerds.
Yeah. Sorry to distract you.
Yeah. So basically, they had a five-guy receiver rotation this past week against the Chiefs, but Van Jefferson was not part of that rotation. And what I mean by that is he played all the snaps. He ran all the routes. He was the only established part of the Rams passing game, as bad as it was. That Bryce Perkins passed for exactly 100 yards in a game where they were down multiple scores for most of it. So
egads.
Yeah, not the best situation, but I think Van Jefferson is like the clear alpha receiver for the Rams going forward. Obviously, this is exactly what Sean McVay wanted. He had 6 targets, which is a 29% target share against the Chiefs. He got the team's lone touchdown while running about 30% of his routes from the slot. I don't know. I have a little excitement. Excitement is a strong word. A little deep league interest in Van Jefferson just kind of falling into fantasy points with a pretty big share of the targets and air yards for the Rams.
Yeah, he could crack the top 48. And I don't mean that to be like damning with faint praise, but like if you're in the top 48, you're looking live for like a flex spot, maybe a second flex spot, maybe even a fill-in wide receiver 3 spot if you're dealing with injuries or buys. Buys are almost over, but targets have gone up back-to-back weeks. Like you say, he's running every route now. He scored a touchdown 2 of the past 3 weeks. He has a history of some downfield production. They have a motive to kind of get him going too. And see, because he's getting near the end of his rookie contract.
Yeah,
Allen Robinson almost certainly will not be back next year. So like they have plenty of incentive to kind of get Van Jefferson going. And yeah, I think Van, even with all 32 teams playing, that's not the case in week 13. I think that Van Jefferson could probably end up in the top 48.
Yeah, and like I said, like no one else. I mean, Tutu Atwell is basically the wide receiver 2 here. So Van Jefferson, I think, could see kind of a silly sort of target share going forward.
I was told that Tutu Atwell averaged 62 yards per route, by the way. And
I was told he's too small, and yet he's averaging 62 yards per route. Did
he run any routes in week 12?
He did. No, he did. He caught two passes, I believe.
No, so he's not averaging 62 yards per route anymore. But let's see, he actually had some yards. He had 23 yards. Good for him. It's a big day for a Rams receiver these days.
You got to feel good for him.
You do have to feel good. You got to feel good for us that we get to take a break. We'll be right back after this. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, on the PGA Tour, and in the World Cup. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Colts and Cowboys in our Sunday Night 7 contest. And also, don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. I said World Cup. A lot of people will probably be listening to this after Team USA plays Iran. But will you actually be watching? It's all on the line, Denny. Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Telemundo.
2 p.m.'s a tough time, man.
I got out of picking up my daughter from school.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean.
Can't say my wife is thrilled about it.
I mean, that's rough. Tuesday at 2. No, I will not be watching.
Oof, man, oh man. I thought you were American.
Excuse me. You told me to watch the England-US game, and it was 0-0. The
0-0 was actually a pretty good game.
Oh, stop. What on earth?
What, you don't think tying quote tying team after team from the British Isles is entertaining, Denny?
The New York Times actually had like a 3,000 word story on the America's only shot on goal. I read it because I was like, I'm sorry, no, this cannot be real. And I read yeah. I mean, like, they're like, hey, the U.S. had a shot on goal, folks. You know what they need to do. Here's my suggestion: if the World Cup is listening, you need to make the goals bigger.
Oh my gosh!
And you need to put walls around the field.
This is
come on,
utterly tragic.
Get the ball going. Get the ball. No more out of bounds stuff. That stuff takes too long.
All I can say is I hope this does not age super poorly if you're listening Tuesday night, but we believe that we will win against Iran and advance to the knockout stage.
Also, does anyone actually make a ruling about out of bounds? Because it just seems like the players just kind of pick up the ball if the ball is near the line, right?
They're pretty casual about it.
Yeah,
and I think the entire ball has to be out of bounds, and sometimes it comes perilously close.
Are there rules? Does soccer have rules?
It does. It has very arcane rules with some things. So.
The only rule I know is that when an exciting play happens, it's blown dead.
Yeah, it's true. They've unfortunately taken the American innovation of using the James Webb Space Telescope to review every single play and sucking the fun and energy out of a lot of things.
The offsides, they need to get rid of offsides.
It was a huge weekend for the James Webb Telescope in the NFL, by the way. A lot of really, really amazing reviews that just were really, really necessary and adding a lot to the game.
Yes.
Speaking of adding a lot to the game, Denny, the Ravens backfield, now it's actually adding lots of pain and sadness. And J.K. Dobbins now has been designated to return from injured reserve, opening his 3-week practice window. I'm hoping you knew this before we began the podcast.
I did, yeah.
I'm not dropping a bombshell on you. What in the world is the state of the Ravens backfield? Other than it's kind of like the Rams, where like every week. It's like, whatever. Kenyon Drake leads it this week.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're committing to Gus. We've always been committed to Gus Edwards. Justice Hill, he improves a little bit every year. I know the fans don't see it, but Denny, what's the deal with the Ravens backfield?
Another 4 to 5 years, and Justice Hill will be a starter in this league.
It's true.
He'll also be 34. I mean, Gus Edwards completely took over the Baltimore backfield, 16 carries against Jaguars, most of the goal line work. He did this all despite just a devastating critical fumble in the fourth quarter. The Ravens seem not to care about. Kenyon Drake was relegated to 2 carries. I think he only saw like 8 or 9 snaps in the game. Him and Justice Hill basically were there to like give Gus Edwards a breather. But there's no upside for Gus Edwards here, except
which is curious since it's a run-based offense that can never seem to produce any fantasy points with the run.
The Ravens have turned into a horrible fantasy offense. Mark Andrews hasn't had a big game in 6 weeks. Lamar Jackson no longer throws touchdowns or scores them on the ground, although he had 89 rushing yards against the Jags. So, I mean, that tends to make up for a lot.
To each their own.
They don't have a reliable receiver, including Demarcus Robinson, who had 1 catch this past week against Jacksonville, although he had a close to a touchdown, but still, 1 catch. Duvernay is not an option. Gus Edwards is a touchdown-based option. Kenyon Drake is a stash. J.K. Dobbins comes back and he makes Gus Edwards unplayable. I think the only 2 players that you're starting with any confidence in 12-team leagues are Mark Andrews and Lamar, and that's it.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, especially if J.K. Dobbins is back this week, it's just like, why? Just like wait for more data. Just wait for something. I mean, it is true. One of the only like constancies, and is that even a word? And in the Ravens backfield this year is that when Gus Edwards is healthy, they commit to him for some reason. They love the young man.
They really do.
J.K. Dobbins, who they slow played his health, and then he still got hurt again. I do have a hard time believing maybe they'll fully recommit to J.K. Dobbins. I mean, they need something. They need some sort of change of pace, of change of momentum, something to shake up this offense. But man, oh man, yeah, I don't see a compelling reason to rely on any of these guys in Week 13.
Yeah, and the Ravens haven't even been very good. Well, I should say for their running back production has been among the worst in the league. Now, Lamar saves them. Actually, I'm looking at EPA data. They have the second highest rush EPA in the league. But that's almost entirely because of Lamar.
Someone, by the way, Derek Klassen, a very good writer, who's done some work for this website, compared an old drill tweet at DRIL, if you're not familiar, with the Ravens offense. And this was a tweet in 2014 from Drill that said, "Me and a bunch of stupid people are going to start a community in the middle of the desert to either die or prove a very important point." And that's what Derek said the Ravens offense. Or more specifically, he said Greg Roman's offense.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't think I've seen that drill tweet.
No, it's a good one.
Man, I love that. Yeah, Greg Roman has no idea what he wants. In fact, Pat, I swear I am not making this up. The Ravens offense, their game plan against the Jags was to deliver a revenge game for Josh Oliver.
I know.
The former Jaguars tenant. Hear me out. Josh Oliver was activated because Isaiah Likely is down with an ankle, right? So Oliver gets in. He's second on the team in targets, 1 behind Mark Andrews. He runs almost all the routes. He gets multiple end zone targets until he finally scores. Greg Roman came into this game and said, no matter what happens today, win, lose, or draw, Josh Oliver's getting this touchdown. How crazy is this?
It was a tough watch, a real tough watch. Then we were afraid we were headed for a tough watch in the Jaguars backfield after Travis Etienne seemed to aggravate his foot injury. And when you have Lisfranc, you can control F Lisfranc, and that pops up on your Wikipedia. Very, very bad sign if you come down with a foot injury. Both Etienne and Coach Doug Peterson say he's actually not hurt, that he escaped. They were just being cautious, that he's questionable for Week 13, but has a real chance to play for Week 13. JaMycal Hasty performed fairly well in Etienne's absence against the Ravens. Darrell Henderson, who was claimed off waivers from the Rams, figures to get involved this week if Etienne can't play. But what's our take on the Jags back? Is he going to play? And who would we prioritize if Travis Etienne does not play?
All signs point to him playing because he said he's fine. Doug Peterson said foot injury. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I will say I would consider him truly questionable for sure.
But if he's out, I think JaMycal Hasty probably will get the lead back duties. Darrell Henderson will mix in. Hasty has a lot of PPR appeal. Not a lot. He has some PPR appeal because he is involved. Whoever's the running back is involved in that passing game quite a bit. He had 5 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown against the Ravens. JaMycal Hasty, all he does is make big plays. Big question I have watching the Jags V times this year. Why is JaMycal Hasty not more involved? And why is Jamal Agnew not more involved? Jamal Agnew is an explosive receiver who's not used at all. But Hasty should be the priority pickup. And then Henderson's available in about half of leagues. But I don't think that you can scoop up Henderson and think, oh well, he's going to be the guy. He's been with the team for 15 minutes. So.
Yeah, it'll probably end in great, great sadness. The reason Jamal Agnew is not more involved than he is Zay Jones, who back-to-back weeks has at least 8 catches on 10 targets. He had 145 yards against the Baltimore Ravens. Not very highly rostered in fantasy football leagues. He's kind of a classic in my league, not in my league. Deeper leagues, he probably is rostered, but he's rostered in under 50% of Yahoo fantasy leagues. Do we need to get that number up?
Yeah, because he's probably going to usurp Christian Kirk as the target leader.
He does have only one tutter, I'll say. Sorry.
No, you're not getting touchdowns.
Tutties.
I mean, know what you're getting. You're getting a PPR scam here in Zay Jones. Yards per target for the season is at yards per target 7.1. That's actually it's lower than that recently. He basically just operates as the underneath option for Trevor Lawrence. Got a lot of it. Got 11 catches on 14 targets. Him and Christian Kirk combined for 57% of the team's targets against the Jags. So we know where the ball is going in that passing game, but it didn't come out of nowhere. I do think 14 targets. We're not going to see that again probably, but he had 10 targets the week before against Kansas City. 3 weeks ago, he had 10 targets against the Giants. He had an 11 target game against the Chargers in week 3. So when game script kind of goes sideways and when the Jags have to chase points, there's one guy who's getting peppered and it's Zay Jones. I should say 2 guys, him and Kirk. But yeah, so I think Zay Jones makes a lot of sense in PPR.
Zay Jones is tied for 13th in the league with 58 catches. Kind of hard to believe.
Wow.
And tied for 24th in the league with 79 targets. So
it's wild.
It's a thing that is actually happening. A thing that also was actually happening in week 12 was Christian McCaffrey seeding 2-minute drill and passing down and red zone snaps to Elijah Mitchell. Everyone was like, what in the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Turns out Christian McCaffrey has a sore knee. Then it turns out Elijah Mitchell injured his MCL yet again. So the team that basically gave away Jeff Wilson for no reason was down to giving Jordan Mason touches. Elijah Mitchell, who's already missed half the year with an MCL issue, you would have to consider him doubtful for week 13. Christian McCaffrey, we'd like to think he'll be active since he played through the issue. I mean, this is Christian McCaffrey. We know about the injury history. We know just about the squirreliness with Kyle Shanahan. So another backfield. They're playing the Miami Dolphins this week, a potential shootout. What should we be telling people about the 49ers backfield?
Yeah, so Kyle Shanahan said on Monday that Elijah Mitchell's MCL injury is as serious as his first MCL injury.
I thought he said it wasn't as serious.
Oh, really? Did I misread that?
I think you might have misread our blurb. I'm really hoping that's the case. And I'm going to keep talking as I try to double check.
Actually, I think I did misread that. Wow. Sorry about that. That was
he said it's not as serious, Denny. Yeah. So why you can recalibrate your take in your mind then.
Well, we can edit that out, obviously. Yeah. So I would guess that he's going to miss at least a week here.
That is for certain. And the guy already had an MCL injury and he re-injured. And he sat out of the game. I can't see how in the world he's not going to miss at least 1 week.
So Jordan Mason, kind of a buzzy rookie this summer, I guess in sicko circles, fantasy circles. He saw 6 carries on 9 snaps against New Orleans this past week. He went for 25 yards. He was pretty good in the preseason. He had 20 carries in the preseason, averaged almost 5 yards per carry, had 3.7 yards after contact per carry, which is pretty high. In other words, he was an explosive runner when given the chance. I think that he should be stashed in case. I think it's clear that McCaffrey is not going to, especially with his knee issue, not going to dominate touches. He's not going to clear out everybody else from getting touches in this backfield. So somebody's got to take that Elijah Mitchell role. I think Jordan Mason would be the one to do it. Now, Tevin Coleman will be probably active.
Oh my God. Is he seriously on the team again?
He's seriously on the team. I had to confirm it because I was like, have I once again hallucinated that it's 2016? But no.
I thought they cut him. Oh my gosh. No, he's on the team.
He's on the I know. And anyway, so he'll be active. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Mason is an interesting, and you're not going to have to prioritize him or spend a lot of free agent budget on him. I think that he's a good pickup.
Yeah, definitely. I would say a must add. Just the vibes, the smoke signals coming out of the 49ers backfield are just not very good right now.
No, vibes are off. Vibes are off.
And everyone's trying to find the guy who did this. Elijah Mitchell, we had no idea he has an injury history. Christian McCaffrey, we had no idea he has an injury history. Jeff Wilson, we just gave him away. I just wish someone had told us that maybe we might need him still. But yeah, Jordan Mason, maybe trading Jeff Wilson was a big vote of confidence in Jordan Mason. Like I said, had a very, very buzzy summer. And he seems like it's going to be tricky with the fab. A lot of people are probably close to out of fab. But I would feel good about getting Jordan Mason Tuesday evening when my waivers run in my league. We talked about a lot of bad players today, Denny. You mentioned a good one that you want to talk about who had a good Thanksgiving, Michael Gallup of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Gallup's route participation has gotten to the point where he is like the clear number 2 receiver in the Cowboys offense. He really excels against man coverage, especially when teams are shading coverage to CeeDee Lamb's side. So I do think, and I had to wonder. I know it's not the most analytical take in the world, but I had to wonder if all this OBJ talk had gotten under Michael Gallup's skin just a little bit over the past few weeks. I mean, it feels like, I tweeted the other day, it feels like Beckham has been a member of the Cowboys for 11 years.
I'm omnipresent on our cable sports networks.
And so maybe Gallup was tired of hearing that. And so, he really stepped up, and Thanksgiving had a big game. I think that this Cowboys offense wants to be balanced. So we're not going to see these massively heavy pass heavy scripts going forward if they can avoid that. So just, keep that in mind. But I think Gallup has gotten to the point where he should be starting in 12-team leagues where, if you have to start 3 or 4 receivers.
Yeah, I think he is basically there. And it always made sense that he was going to trend that direction. I mean, throughout his career, he's always been a top 36 guy. I think he could definitely push to be a top 40 guy. And Odell Beckham, I mean, a lot of people convinced Odell Beckham's still going to be good. Coming back from a second torn ACL, it's a very, very strange narrative to me. And Ian Rappaport reported he's going to probably return mid-December, but that it could be late December. I would not have OBJ fear if you're a Michael Gallup rosterer. I would not have much OBJ optimism. It doesn't strike me as a stash that's going to do a whole lot for you, or literally anything for you. And yeah, OBJ too. Seems like maybe some work on his commercial plane etiquette. Not really sure what's going on. It's not like they woke up like a hibernating bear, basically.
Yeah,
He was very upset about it.
Very weird situation. He wasn't cited or arrested or anything, but it was a very, very weird situation. Gallup, by the way, seeing more action, seeing more targets in the red zone of late. So that is an important piece of the puzzle here as we try to get some touchdowns for our guy Gallup.
because our guy Gallup, who's having a hard time, our guy Dak Prescott loves our guy Dalton Schultz, man. He loves him.
He loves himself a mid tight end.
Come on, man. Speaking of mid, I actually Foster Moreau wishes he were mid.
Oh, I know.
But you want to talk about Foster Moreau, who he keeps getting away with it, Denny. Scored another touchdown.
I mean, he has not been getting away with it. We should say he finally got away with it.
Okay. I mean, he has scored. I think he scored like either 2 weeks in a row or he scored 2 of the past.
Oh, he did. I'm sorry. He did. I was just looking at that.
Scored 2 of the past 3 weeks, but he hasn't caught more than 3 balls in over a month. But curious. You wanted to talk about him.
All right. Yeah. Right. It is curious. So the key with Foster Moreau and with any tight end who we're streaming is we need them to be out there. We need them to be running all the routes humanly possible. And that's what Foster Moreau is doing. He's 4th in tight end pass routes since week 9, only behind Hawkinson, Knox, and Dulcich. Somehow Dulcich is on there, even though he does nothing for fantasy. I think you can reasonably stream Moreau in a 12-team league.
They're playing the Chargers this week
against the Chargers, right? And I actually haven't checked that as far as a matchup standpoint, but I'm guessing that game will have one of the higher totals of the week. That's another thing we want.
50.5 right now. So.
Right. That's another thing we want definitely with streaming tight ends. We want to attach them to potentially high scoring games so that routes can be inflated, targets can be inflated, hopefully catches and yardage and touchdowns. So I think you can keep, if you have Moreau, I think that there is a case for just keeping him going against the Chargers.
After weeks of seemingly having like 3 or 4 games under 40, we have 3 games currently. Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Over 50. Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, Bengals, and then very, very interestingly, Denny, Jaguars, Lions is currently at 51.5.
Oh, I like that setup.
I do too. I mean, these lines will change, of course, as the week goes. But 3 games over 50, just maybe give us some fantasy points, please.
Just a few would be nice.
Just a few.
I mean, does it feel like every single game this season is 10-10 at halftime?
It does. It's just a really weird year. Because there's so many teams that are like in like weird transition phases, like the Bucks, like the Packers, then people who just never arrived, like the Broncos. Just not a good. I mean, the Saints should have a lot of people who are fantasy viable, but they're just a bad team. It's the too high safety has like changed the face of teams have to run the ball again. Yeah, it's been just a very maddening, very, very frustrating fantasy season.
Yeah, we'll have to look into this in the offseason.
We want the return of the points. We'll also have to look into week 13. I hope you have this prepared, Denny. The kicker of the week. Who was it last week?
It was Joey Sly.
Joey Sly, how'd that work out?
Joey Sly, he had not a bad game.
He on the Commanders.
I'm checking.
We love our Joey Sly. Oh my God, the Commanders had 19 points. There's no way he didn't kick like several field goals.
He had 2 field goals, scored 8 fantasy points. So
that's a good day. That's a good day at the office for the kicker of the week.
That's fine. Joey Sly, by the way, he'll be in the column this week again. Not as the top kicker streamer, but he has multiple field goal attempts in 5 of his past 7 games. And the Commanders are quite bad in the red zone. Okay, they're only converting about 50% of their red zone possessions into touchdowns, one of the lowest rates in the league. So you can keep going with Sly, I think. But my guy this week is Jason Myers, available in 60% of leagues, which I know he was drafted before DK Metcalf in your league, but really good spot here for Seattle. And I'm trying to vamp so I can find. He is playing.
You're wondering who the Seahawks are playing. They're playing the Los Angeles Football Rams.
They're playing the Rams, folks.
So the team that you can settle for field goals against. Whatever. Just kick the field goal.
I mean, only 6 teams have been worse than Seattle in scoring touchdowns inside the 20 this season. It's worked out pretty well for Myers, who has multiple field goal attempts in 7 of the past 9 games for Seattle. Lots of positive game script here. I like it. You're starting Jason Myers.
You are starting Jason Myers. You're starting everyone we've talked about on this show, just to be honest. Very informative show today. Good stuff, as always, from Denny. Check out his Waiver Wired column, which goes live on Tuesday mornings. He'll be back later in the week with his funnel thing. I'll be back later in the week with my rankings. We'll both be back later in the week with multiple podcasts. We hope we'll be back later in the week with another U.S. men's national team game in the knockout stages of this World Cup. You got to advance, boys. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. 2 p.m. Eastern on Telemundo in Spanish. You got to do it. Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, we're all rooting for you. So for Denny Carter,
by the way,
what?
They're listening right now.
They are listening. Well, they got nothing to do. They're sitting around guitar. You can't have a beer, apparently. So you're listening to the Rotoworld Football Show, which will be back on Tuesday with Lawrence Jackson, Kyle Dvorak, and myself. We'll catch you later.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.